Hello, everybody. My brothers, Israel, the Englishmen, the lost tribes, the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Hello to you all and to any Gentiles that are tuning in as well. Back tonight to continue in with Reviving Isaac, part 2. So, before I get started on what I want to talk about tonight, I want to go back to last week. The first part of my video from last week, when I read from Ezekiel chapter 34, God speaks about the bad shepherds that don't look for Israel, and that just teach us Englishmen and Israel all sorts of bad stuff. And I kind of made it sound uh, like it was only the Jewish shepherds, and that is not what I meant. There are absolutely bad shepherds in Judah, but there are some good ones too. And I want to make clear that mainly I'm speaking about Christian shepherds, especially Catholic shepherds are they're the really bad shepherds. So anyway, I just wanted to clear that up. I'm definitely we're brothers with Judah, so I don't hate Judah by any means. I love Judah, and a lot of them are finding Yeshua lately, and that's a good thing. So good for them. And anyway, so now we're going to go start with tonight the continuation of proving um, that we Englishmen are Israel. And I just want you to think about something now too. It's not really written in the Bible, but it's something that we've done as nations for a long time, 100 years or better. Um, anyway, why do we English always protect Israel? Isn't it pretty obvious? We protect Israel, Judah, because they, unknown to us, are our brothers. So there's more proof just in the way things are, God's creation, uh, to see uh, that we're Israel. We protect our brothers. We don't never attack our brothers. We protect them tooth and nail. Yes, it depends who's been in the office, which side. But I'm not going to get into the politics of that. We just understand. We defend Israel. So it's because we're their brothers. So anyway, starting with tonight, first thing I want to do, I want to get out my phone and I want to look up something that I found the other day. And there's lots of this stuff out there. This certainly isn't the only one that you can look up for yourself. And what I did was I just Googled the word Saxons, and I got a lot of answers, and you will too. And so anyway, they mostly agree. I read three or four of them pretty much entirely, and for the most part, they agree. Um, they say the same thing. So this particular site is the World History Encyclopedia, and it's titled "The Saxons." And up in the address bar, it says it's ancient.eu/Saxons slash, and I'll come back later and I'll put this in the details of the video down below there so you can come back and hopefully you can find this. So anyway, I'm just going to read a little bit of this website description of the Saxons here, and it's going to amaze you. Um, I'm going to read a little bit from the beginning here, and then I'm going to skip down and then read a little bit more that's towards the bottom. So anyway, starting out right off the top. The Saxons were a Germanic tribe that originally occupied the region which today is the North Sea coast of the Netherlands, Germany, and Denmark. And now I'm going to stop there just for a moment. Um, uh, to go back to this, the North Sea coast of the Netherlands, Germany, and Denmark, this is where we got our name, Anglo. Anglo. There's a region in Germany called the Angli. Anglii is what I've found on some maps. Anyway, this is where we got our name, Anglo. Because we camped in this area, which agrees with what I'm saying, in the area of Angli, just south of the North Sea. So this goes on to say that their name is derived from the sea axe, a distinct knife which was popularly used by the tribe. But Saxon didn't come from sea axe. Saxon came from Isaac's sons. And these people that created this site, they don't know that. So this is what they used to determine our name. And that part is wrong. Maybe it's partly right, but this is the real reason why we're named Saxons. So anyway, skipping down just a little more, it talks about one of the earliest historical records of this group that we know of comes from Roman writers dealing with the many troubles that affected the northern frontier of the Roman Empire during the 2nd and 3rd century Common Era. It is possible that under the Saxons label, these early Roman accounts also included other neighboring Germanic groups in the regions, such as the Angles, and I'm not sure exactly about that. I'm going to have to do some research on that. But then the Frisians and the Jutes, all these groups spoke closely related West Germanic languages that in time would evolve into Old English. And I'm going to back up a little bit to where it says it is possible that under the Saxons label, these other neighboring groups were included under the name Saxons. And that is true. But they're not Saxons. These groups that are listed here that we just read descend from Japheth. And in the third video that I'm going to do on this, which is the next video, and the final one that I'm going to do on identifying Israel, if we haven't got it that by then, you're not going to get it. So anyway, back to this. We'll come back to the children of Japheth in the next video. And then it goes on to say, since the Saxons were illiterate, most of what we know about them comes from reports from a handful of writers, mostly bishops and monks, and also from archaeological research. The Saxons were among the barbarian nations that would engage against Rome during late antiquity, putting an end to the dying imperial order in the western realm of Rome, reshaping the map and renaming the nations of Europe. And again, the nations, the Isles of the Gentiles up there, were named through Japheth. This is biblical, and I'm not going to get into that until the next video. So anyway, I'm going to scoot down here a little bit. It talks about the Franks, which is France, and the shipping lanes, and how we prayed on the shipping lanes, and we also raided the coasts of Britain and Gaul, and these are sons of Japheth, and these attacks on Roman Britain during the late 3rd century CE forced the authorities to build a network of forts with thick stone walls to repel these attacks. And the south coast of England became known as the Saxon Shore Frontier. So Israel, my fellow Englishmen, this is our history. This is what happened to us, and this is why we've been forgotten through history. And now I'm going to scroll down, and it shows a map of the Saxon shore, both the north in Britain and the south shore of Portugal and France and Belgium and Germany and everything along the north coast there. And it's really interesting stuff. So anyway, I'm going to move down, and it talks about The movement of the Saxons and the Angles into Britain was a critical stage in the overall development of the English language. And not long after the death of Emperor Constantine in 337 Common Era, the northern frontiers of Rome were also suffering the incursion of the barbarians, including the Saxons, and we were challenging Rome, and Catholicism was just starting out at that point, and that the Roman imperial empire fell away, but the church stayed. The Roman emperor is now the Pope. So um, Constantius, the Roman emperor who came after Constantine, had to face during the 350s, in which the Saxons are mentioned as one of the many military threats hanging upon Rome. And I'm scrolling down here, and then there's another subsection here on ancient accounts of the Saxon migrations. And now I'm going to read this last paragraph, and this is going to be the last paragraph that I read out of this website, and then we're going to move on. So, ancient sources provide different versions of how exactly the Saxons arrived in Britain and how they expanded. 3 major works concerned with the Saxons in Britain have survived to the present day. The De Exedio Britanniae, written by Gildas, the Historia Ecclesiastica by Bede, and the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, a narrative with multiple authors. According to Bede, the famous British monk who lived there in the early Middle Ages, the Britons were suffering attacks from the Scots and the Picts, so they decided to hire some of the Saxons as mercenaries to fight their enemies. After completing their task, the Saxons turned against the Britons. Gildas, a 6th century CE British monk, describes the Saxons as savages, similar to dogs and lions, and he adds that nothing more destructive, nothing more bitter has ever befallen the land. Gildas saw the destructive advance of the Saxons as a form of punishment inflicted by God for the sins of the British, whom he compares with the Israelites of the Bible. Why? He is correct. Exactly. That's why he compares us with the Israelites of the Bible. The Saxons are compared to the Israelites of the Bible. So there's teachings on this besides in the Bible. And I pray that you don't harden your hearts today to God, and understand this. If you believe in Yeshua, and if you believe in the word of the Bible, in the word of God, you have to believe this. So I'm going to leave that at that, and we're going to move on then to Psalm 83. Okay, I've got this already turned open to Psalm 83 because I want to keep my videos as short as possible to keep your interest and your attention span, so that you can consume these videos and not get sick of them or tired of listening to them. Okay, Psalm 83. And just a little bit of talk about this, common sense. There's a ton of videos on YouTube where people ask the question, why isn't America and England and any of the other nations, why aren't they mentioned in Psalm 83 as either way, either defending Israel or fighting against Israel? And the reason that there's no English power nations of the world mentioned in Psalm 83, the reason for that is because we are Israel. Granted, we are not in Israel yet, but we are Israel. This is why you don't read of America or Great Britain, England, or Canada, or Australia coming against Israel, because we are Israel. We're going to be defending them, of course. And this is apparently World War III. So anyway, I'm going to read Psalm 83, and you'll see that who's gathered against us are the Christians and the Muslims. So here we go, Psalm 83. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lift up thy head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. Thy hidden ones is us. They're going to be consulting against us because we're going to be reviving. God said he's going to revive us. And here we go. So anyway, they're going to consult against thy hidden ones. That's us, the Englishmen. They're going to consult against the Englishmen. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. Why? Because we're going to be reviving ourselves. God's going to be reviving us. Let me rephrase that. God is going to be reviving us. We're going to be doing things that they're not going to like. They're going to understand that we're all going to Israel, and Israel is going to become the power nation of the world. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. The name of Israel may be no more remembered, may be no more in remembrance, for they have consulted together with one consent. Why? Because we're being revived by God into unity under one shepherd. And we're going to continue. They have consulted together with one consent. They are confederated against us. The tabernacles of Edom, which is Roman Catholicism. Don't kid yourself. This is Roman Catholicism. And the Ishmaelites, and of Moab, and of the Hagarenes, Gebal, and Ammon, and Amalek. And Amalek is descended from Esau, from what is now became Roman Catholicism. The mixture of Italia and the sons of Esau. The Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher is joined with them. And there's two Ashers. I'm assuming this is the Asher born of Abraham's concubine Keturah. Asher is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. The children of Lot are Muslims. The children of Lot are Ammon and Moab. And that's biblical. I'm not just saying it. You can check me out. And absolutely, by all means, do that. They have hope in the children of Lot. Selah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin at the brook of Kizon, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles, this is the nobles of Catholicism and Islam, make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeb, yea, all their princes as Zebah, and as Zalmunna, who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. O my God, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth a wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek your name, O Lord. Let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Jehovah, art the Most High over all the earth. And so there's Psalm 83. It's a preview of what's coming at the end, right before God and Yeshua return, to save us, to rescue us from the wicked of the world. So, hopefully you're getting a grasp on this. we're Israel. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And in just a day or two, I'm going to put together my notes and come back, and we're going to go through the genealogies of Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And we're going to go through their land allotments and placements, and so that you understand that we're not just part of the Gentiles that are in our own land. We're sons of Shem, and we're displaced from our own land because of false worship. And we're still exiled. Judah is already restored, and they're waiting for us. Um, and the reason that we haven't returned is, again, because we still do false worship. So, and again, and we're going to get into that after these first few videos that identify us, that, solidly, we're Israel. So, anyway, I'm going to cut this off right here. I don't want it to get too terribly long. It's 20 minutes already. So anyway, have a good Passover. Pesach. Before I go, I'm going to recommend a couple of things that you do. Rabbi Yitzhak Shapira, even though I don't agree with everything he says, he's a darn good teacher about going back to the Hebrew language. He's a good explainer of what the words mean and stuff like that. So don't necessarily listen to his whole story, but he's a good guy to listen to. And another one would be Zachary Bauer over at New to Torah. Hopefully him and I can hook up sometime in the near future here. I'm sure we'd have a blast talking to each other. So anyway, go listen to them guys, especially Zach at New to Torah. And I'll be back in just a day or two with the genealogies and the land allotments. And that should finalize your understanding that we are Israel. So shalom, peace, and I'll talk to you soon.